Giants fans, what is going on? Welcome to another edition of the 2024 Draft Show. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We have a lot to go over. We're talking about the running backs in the 2024 NFL Draft. And even though, the Giants have Saquon right now, the idea is there might be a chance here that they either don't sign Saquon, or even if they keep Saquon, maybe they want another guy that slips to the mid rounds to be an additional running back that can do some of the stuff that maybe Saquon can't do or add any sort of value. But first and foremost, we don't have any special guests tonight. It's just the OG crew, just me and Truth. And Truth, what is going on?
What's going on, Spartan? Yeah, big contrast today from last week when we talked about the wide receivers. Plentiful in the draft with those guys. How many we talked about going round one?
Right.
In this scenario, we don't see any running backs going round one, but it doesn't mean that there aren't quality running backs in this draft.
No, exactly. And I mean, we always go back to the amount of value that's placed on the running back position has declined over the years. There's no doubt about it, right? And so, let alone the fact that there's not really any top guys this year that might be even worthy of a first-round pick, the whole draft stock in general towards running backs has gone down a little bit. Like in terms of, even if there was a great running back available, they might slip to round two. So with this year, when you don't really even have those clear-cut gems, then it's going to be a little bit more of a mid-round battle. It's a little bit more difficult to decipher who's going to be great in the NFL. But this is a hard position anyway to decide who's going to be good in the NFL. Things change, injuries. Sometimes these guys are playing at smaller schools. Sometimes they're playing behind bad offensive lines, bad schemes a lot too, right? So there's a lot that goes into what makes a running back good in the long run. I want to ask you, first and foremost, Truth, describe your ideal running back.
Well, my ideal running back is a running back who can give you both a little bit of production as a runner and as a receiver. Those are the kind of guys I like to target.
Okay.
A guy who likes to hold on to the football, doesn't cough it up a lot. Very, very secure with the football. I think those are the top three things I look for. I think anybody would look for in a running back. Doesn't have to be the biggest guy, doesn't have to be the fastest guy, but it's a guy who produces on the field. That's the guy I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, and certain traits that I really just like in my ideal running back world, right? I love a running back that just hits the hole. I don't care if they have the greatest breakaway speed or the greatest ankle breaking, because even if you're a great running back, like the Barry Sanders of the world, there's very few plays that those types of running backs have where they're really going to break away and get a 50-yard touchdown. Like it only happens five, even for the best of the best, that only happens like five, times a year. They make the highlight reels. They're great plays, but all things considered, how much that helps their offense on a play-to-play basis may not be helpful if they're also losing the yards as easily as they're gaining the yards. And I hate those types of running backs. I personally have a challenge loving those types of running backs that are shifty, sometimes have breakaway touchdowns, big yard plays, but then quite often they're losing plays, right? So what I really want is a dude that is able to find the hole, right? That takes a certain level of smartness. A guy that hits the hole so that if it's 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1 or even 3rd and 2, and they're getting the ball, we have pretty good confidence that they're going to be able to get those yards. I'll give you a perfect example. Brandon Jacobs, 4th and 1, Super Bowl 42. It's probably one of the most underrated plays in Giants history, right? People forget there was a 4th down on that play. But Truth, you and I know damn well we were going to get that 1st down. There was no questions asked. It was Brandon Jacobs. Did you have any doubt in your mind that they were going to get that?
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it's those plays like that, not the big breakaways, the realistic. When these guys get the tough yardage, those are the guys you want
right
on your team. Those are the guys that those are winners.
Absolutely. It's a little bit of it is old school math, guys. It is more about the median yards per carry, which I can't find those stats anywhere. But I'd rather have higher median yards per carry than average yards per carry, because if you're one of those running backs that gains 50 yards easy as you lose 2 yards. Your averages get a little bit inflated by those big breakaways. The median guys is like, all right, if we hand you the ball, how often are you able to get the yards that we need to progress the drive and get the first downs or set up the team so that it's a 4-yard pass and not a 7-yard pass, right? Because that makes a huge difference.
Yep.
And let me just say this, Truth, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. I know that a lot of people out there don't value the running back position as much as it would have been 30 years ago. I get it. And even though some of these Super Bowl winning teams don't have the best running backs in terms of like having Hall of Famers as of late and whatnot, a lot of the times they still have good running games. And a lot of the times these running backs that they have, and you saw it with the Patriots quite often, it was always those dudes that were able to find those holes, right? And even though that, their running backs weren't going to get 50-yard touchdowns, they were gonna get yards consistently, right? And that certainly helps. So I don't value the running back position as much. I am a little new age in that sense, but I do value the running back, the running game. Like that does have to be there. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on where the running back position's headed and everything like that?
Well, not only doesn't we, the media or fans don't value the running back, the league. I mean, just look at last year. Jacobs took a while for him to get signed, didn't get a contract that he wanted, right? And even Saquon, I think that's going to continue. It's not the priority like it used to be. When we used to grow up, I don't, you're a little bit younger than me, but when Walter Payton and those guys, Emmitt Smith, I mean, the offenses were built around them. They were the marquee guys. You don't see that hardly. Even San Francisco 49ers, what a great year McCaffrey had. But they are not exclusively riding his coattail. They had other players that they distributed the ball to.
Right. And I do say with San Francisco too, like people say that quarterback Brock Purdy is so good just because he has the offense around him. He has, Christian McCaffrey. But let's be real. I mean, he did a damn good job of. If he was a game manager, he did one of the best game management jobs I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
If that's what we want to deduce it to. But you're right. I mean, I will say McCaffrey is probably. I mean, it's tough for me to gauge who the best running back is in the league. I mean, it changes from year to year. But yeah, last year, I mean, McCaffrey was phenomenal football and whatnot. Again, I mean, I value the strong running games. The individual elite running backs gets a little bit challenging for me to really get behind as much. But look, like I said, want a good running game, and maybe one of these dudes goes to the Giants in the mid rounds. I can certainly see it, whether Saquon's back or not.
It's looking up.
Yeah, and then maybe they turn out to be 1,000-yard ballers. I mean, when was Ahmad Bradshaw drafted? He was a 7th round pick, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he was out of Marshall.
Yeah, what was Jacobs? He was a 4th round pick, right?
4th round, that's right. And what about Terrell Davis? Out of
he was 5th round.
Denver's 6th round pick, right? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. 5th or 6th. Anybody in the comments has that? Please type that.
So and it's funny about him. He made the team because of a special teams play he did in preseason. It kept him on the team, and then suddenly he emerged as their number 1 running back as the season unfolded.
That's incredible.
You never know, Spartan, and
never know.
Like we said, we got some guys here that I know you like and I like.
Yeah,
it could be the same guys, could be different guys, but I think there's some guys here who could be an option for the Giants, even if Barkley does sign. I don't see a contract. I could be wrong. But if he does stay there, what do we have as depth right now? Truthfully, we have Eric Gray, right? Who do we have in the depth department for this Giant team? So you're going to need at least 3 running backs, I would think, on the roster. So it's worth a look at some of these guys with possibly, a good day 3 pick. Did I get cut off, or did you get cut off? You there?
Truth, you able to hear me now? Sorry about that.
Yeah, did I get cut off, or you got cut off?
It was me. It was me with the Wi-Fi. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
But
I don't know what you heard.
Yeah,
where you heard
My bad. All right. How about we start with your guys? You want to start with Marshon Lloyd?
Yeah, Marshon Lloyd, another USC.
Tell me about this. So USC story, explosive offense. There's a few different personnel players that are being drafted this year, including the quarterback and Jerry Rice's son. So what did Lloyd contribute to the game, in your opinion?
Well, he's a dependable runner. He wasn't flashy. He's more of a north and south guy. Very powerful build. The guy's 5'9", 217. So he's powerfully built and packed. He does move. Got pretty deceptive speed. He's not going to break them like you mentioned. Guys breaking out and getting those long 50+ yard touchdowns, but he will move the chains for you. And he's a very reliable receiver, even though he didn't do a lot of it. He did show a lot of it during the Senior Bowl. His receiving skills. I saw when I watched the highlights of that, he did pretty well. He shows and displays soft hands as a receiver. So he's the kind of guy who I think can make an NFL team, be that third or fourth running back, contribute on special teams and get some snaps and be a contributor to a team as a rookie.
Good. That's what I would want out of a rookie, And you bring up a good point too. The pass game, I want a running back that has that dynamic ability, because then it becomes a little bit more challenging for defenses to try to figure out how to stop them. I love Saquon. And I'll talk about one of these guys who's very good at screenplays later on, but Saquon's not very good at screenplays because he bobbles the ball at first. You know what I'm saying? I don't, and I think he could have been utilized better in the pass game, but screenplays just isn't his thing.
Yeah, he's kind of digressed. I mean, he was a phenomenal receiver as a rookie.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure any Giant fan, he had 91 receptions, and of course that was during Pat Shermer's offensive scheme, and he really utilized Saquon to his fullest as a rookie. Shermer did. After that, he really, like you said, he didn't become that kind of reliable wide receiver that you wanted or expected from him.
Right. No doubt about it. All right. So Marshon Lloyd, if he's got that dynamic, what round are they projecting him to go in?
He's like a fourth rounder, and I looked at many of the websites, about at least a dozen of them, and I try to, someone's saying third, someone's saying fourth. I kind of like averaged it out, so I put down fourth round.
What are his downsides?
Well, his downside, he's not going to be a blocker for you in pass protection, and then very few running backs that do that. Doesn't have that breakaway speed that we talked about, but again, if he did have that kind of speed, we wouldn't say fourth round pick. He'd probably be a second round pick.
Yeah, and I feel like it was, and obviously speed's critical, but you know what? Don't discount that blocking ability for the quarterback. Now, I don't. I remember under Jason Garrett, Saquon was blocking for Jones way too much. They should have done more fake handoffs to distract the defenses. They never did that. God, it was infuriating. But man, he's not a very good blocker in the backfield.
No,
he's not particularly good at that. And you do need somebody that, I don't expect 5 seconds. I don't expect him to be Orlando Pace back there, but hold something. Just hold a little bit of time and make sure that, right. If somebody gets to a gap, make sure that you can disrupt them long enough for the quarterback to make a decision. So, all right. Well, what about Ray Davis out of Kentucky? What are your thoughts on this dude?
Okay, so we talked about at the beginning of the show, there are going to be some running backs that I like and some that you may like. Okay. So here's one that I like. Okay. So Ray Davis, he had over 1,100 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns, played in arguably the best conference in college football, the SEC, out of Kentucky.
At a school that's not typically that great in the conference.
That's correct. That's correct.
I always like a little bit more. It's like they go to one of the worst schools in a big conference and they're good players. Oh, I kind of like that.
Yeah. They usually get beat up by teams and picked on. But this kid, again, he's built same along lines as Lynch, 5'9", around 220. So he's very built, low to the ground. But he does have. I watched during this week when I knew we were doing running backs. I started watching a lot more of him in games. And again, when I watch highlights, I watch games where it's not showing all their best all their exclusive running plays and their highlight. It's a game. And you watch the guy, even when he doesn't have the football, I like to watch what they do. And this kid, to me, even when he runs the football, first of all, not only is he a powerful runner, he can run through tackles, but he also has a little wiggle on him, and he can shift and he can make people miss. He had a very good game against Florida, very good game against Clemson.
Those are tough teams, yeah.
Yep, and we talked about he has the balance, and I mentioned, you asked me what I like in a running back, and I said able to run the football, able to catch a football, and ball security. This guy does
that's critical. I mean, listen, if I don't care how good you are, if you have a fumbling issue, I really am tempted to say it's not even worth, working for it,
So this guy, not only, like I say, had a good running, but he did very well in the passing, even though they didn't use him a lot. Over 300 yards in the air as a receiver, and he shows very good hands, good route running for a receiver. And since 2019, he's only had one fumble out of 759 snaps.
Love that.
So, and that's what you want to see. This kid, and you're going to ask me why is he a fourth round projection? Well, he doesn't have that breakaway speed that a Barkley has. He's not going to run. He's not going to go in the combine and running for less than under a 4.4.
And by the way, he's a little older too. I mean, he's 24 years old. He is. That's he transferred. Right. He transferred twice. He went to Blair Academy up in New Jersey. We actually had a guy from our school district that transferred there, and he went on to Stanford to wrestle. Damn shame, because he was unbelievable. He and then he went to Temple, then he went to Vanderbilt. I get the quarterback situation a little bit with those guys moving around. I get a little bit. I don't really like to see it with running back because each year, those are valuable years, right? Saquon's drafted at 21. Right? This dude's going to be drafted at 24, and those years do make a significant difference for a running back, right? I mean, how many years could we get out of Ray Davis, right? But again, look, I mean, even if it's just 5 solid years, I'll take that if he's productive.
Yeah, if he gets it, he gets his contract, his rookie year deal, which is, I think it's 4 because he's not a first rounder, and then he stays on and he stays healthy. The Giants may need a committee, running back by committee, and it doesn't mean you're going to have a bad running attack. You can have a couple of guys who can run the football. Each of them gain 500 yards. You get 1,500 yards out of your running back committee. That's pretty productive.
That works. Because beyond Saquon, we don't really have more dynamic running backs right now. We don't have anybody that can really add to our run game. So, all right.
So I mean, I do like this guy, and do I think he's going to be an all-pro? No, I don't foresee that much. Do I think he could be a good, dependable running back and take some snaps and contribute to the team? Yes, I do. I do think he can do that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, good. All right, so that's all right, guys. Everybody know Ray Davis is one of Truth's favorites because he's now going to get drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. I swear to God, if that happens, Truth, I'm texting you immediately. Like, can you believe that? So
take me to dinner. If that happens.
Yes. If that happens, I'll fly down to South Carolina. I'll take you to dinner. You got it. Oh, man. All right. So now we're going back to a team that's just been, there's so many dudes and offensive weapons coming out of Washington this past year. I got to ask, Truth, with Dylan Johnson, is it Penix that's elevating the entire offense or like, because now it's like, man, where did all this talent come from? Washington has good players every now and then, but now they're going to have 3 weapons drafted in the top few rounds. So, I mean, tell me about this dude and try to, tell me about, did Penix impact him a little bit or what's the case here? I must have watched him play against Michigan State in September. I don't remember him particularly well.
No, because when you think of Washington, you think of a passing attack.
Right.
Obviously.
For the last 4 years, really, I think.
Yeah. And let's not forget, they're going to get at least 3 guys drafted from their wide receivers. Don't forget McMillan. That kid had a pretty good year as their 3rd receiver. And that's how this kid Dylan Johnson. I don't think he's a trailblazer. He's another one day three pick, 5th round, 6th round. But he did a good job for them. And guess what? He didn't block too badly when he stayed in the block for Penix. He did an okay job blocking. So he's the kind of guy who's probably can make a football team as a special teamer.
Okay.
I don't think he's a better runner than Davis or Lynch, but I do think he's a capable runner. Can he make a team on an NFL? Yeah, he can make a team. It's not a high probability, but not many are who are 5th and 6th round picks. So, but I do like him. I do think he's a pretty good player, and he runs hard. He runs hard. When they had the game against what game was that? In the championship game, in the beginning, he ran hard. He had
a much better game than the passing game. I mean, I'm definitely going to agree with you.
Yeah, he did really well. He ran hard, more of a north to south kind of slashing kind of guy. He's not going to juke you and make a lot of team play people miss you and break a lot of tackles, but he's a good, adequate running back. And like I said, he's probably a 6th round pick.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
What do you think about him?
I no, literally, I don't know enough about this dude. I mean, of all the guys that I look into and I fell in love with, I completely missed Dylan Johnson. And again, I saw him live, so I really screwed this one up.
Yeah, I'm just reading a couple of comments. Some people just joined us.
Oh, let's see. Neil, what's going on, man? I like the way Saquon falls forward and seems to turn a 4 or 5 yard run into 8.
Sometimes he does the opposite too.
Yeah.
When he dances around.
I was going to say that too, Neil. I get what you're saying, man. I mean, and we saw really early on in his career. I mean, he could juke a dude and get extra yards. I don't really know if he quite gets like that first hit of contact and he breaks away consistently anymore.
Yeah, that's not the same. That's the 2020 version is nowhere near what the 2018 version was.
Yeah,
he was phenomenal as a rookie. The way he would stop it on a dime and people miss him. It was amazing how well he did that. But 6 years later, your body, it's hard. It's hard on the body. The way Saquon plays, it's hard.
Absolutely. All right, let's go on to another dude. This is a small school guy. Tell me about Isaiah Davis. I'm always a little bit intrigued when a name like this from a school like this comes through.
Yeah, definitely a small school. But you know what? This small school has a couple of sleepers, and I kind of tweeted one out. A Greatfield, offensive tackle. He's one of them, and there's a linebacker on that team as well. An edge guy that made the top 10 sleeper list. So, they got some quality looking football players coming out of there. And this guy, Isaiah Davis, is one of them. And it's funny how they're all kind of built the same way. The two guys I mentioned earlier, Lynch and Lloyd and Davis. This guy's built the same way, 5'11", 220.
Yeah.
Same kind of compact body. And he had a phenomenal year. Again, at South Dakota, over 1,500 yards, 18 touchdowns. And again, you got to question, the competition level when you see that. But it's nice to see that he dominated that level. If he didn't, then he wouldn't be on my list. But, he's a very powerful guy, excellent low body, like he runs low to the ground, this guy. And he's got, and that becomes a good balance, of course. And here's another guy who had good security with the football, didn't fumble a lot. And with South Dakota, he was used in the passing game as well. Little bubble screens, little flare-outs. They did a lot of those with him. The only thing you have to question is, the competition. Can he keep this same level of competition and production when he gets to the higher level?
Because certain things translate a little bit when you're a running back behind like a, he's going against, from the line of scrimmage standpoint, he's going against D1 AA dudes, right, that are trying to tackle him up front, but he's also getting blocks from D1 AA dudes. I think that initial part, as he's trying to get past the first couple of yards, will translate. If he pushes through, if he's able to find holes, that kind of stuff will be there. What I think will be a little bit more challenging is if he gets to the second level in the NFL, those dudes are going to be a lot better at taking him down than the second level guys, right? And at that point, it's kind of on him. He doesn't really have other people that he's depending upon. And so it's a little bit hard for that aspect of his game to translate. However, you bring up a good point. South Dakota State's actually produced some decent players throughout the years. I mean, they actually have – North Dakota State's the bigger program in FCS. But South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits, right? They always have some decent players that come out of that school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and, again, why this guy's a 6th-round projection, he doesn't have that breakaway speed, but he does move the chains. And how that translates in the NFL, it's just a wait-and-see thing. With all these guys, we don't know how they're going to adapt to the NFL level of speed and the talent level that's nowhere close to what they're seeing right now.
Absolutely. All right, Truth, you had one more guy, and I apologize. I wrote this down incorrectly because there's no way this is who you want to talk about. Who is it? Who's the 5th guy that you wanted to talk about?
I had Braylon Edwards.
Is it Braylon Edwards?
Yeah.
I'll add him right now. From Stanford?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about him. I have nothing. I have literally nothing on this dude.
Well, he's a big guy. Big frame, 6'2", 245, big boy. Ran just under 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns. So doesn't have that breakaway speed, doesn't have that big elusiveness. More of a power guy, north to south. When he played with the Cardinals, he's an athlete. Don't get me wrong; he's a good athlete. When he does run, he shows good vision. Sometimes the hole's not there, and he finds the hole. But here's a guy who I think to the next level. He could be used as a 3rd down specialist. Getting those tough yards. Could be really good in the red zone when he gets down to the goal line. And again, we'll see on special teams. Didn't see a lot of film on him playing special teams, as he was a starter for the Cardinals. But, his size is what you see. So I'm curious to see, and like everybody else, I'm curious to see how this guy does at the combine. I want to see what his time is because it's been fluctuating. You want to see how well he goes in the three cone drill because that's big.
Yeah.
For running backs. You want to see how he catches the ball when they do the drills. It could make or break his draft stock. But right now, I got him going in around 4 or 5 in the draft.
For sure. And his name's Braylon Edwards?
I believe so. Did I spell it wrong?
I'm trying to – well, see, that's why I was trying to type this up earlier.
Let me look him up. Guys, anybody knows if I spell it wrong?
The Michigan
yeah, he used to play with a wide receiver from Michigan. Wasn't that
right? Right. That's why I was kind of looking like, did he have a son or something like that? But I mean, numerically, I don't think that made sense with his age. So,
hey, listen, I'm 65 years old almost, so maybe I screwed up.
No. I mean, I have no. We certainly don't have to harp on this at all. I'm just trying to find the. I was trying to find him earlier. I'm like, God damn, Truth really knows how to find these guys in the haystack because I can't even find tape on him.
Might have spelled his first name wrong. Let me see.
Sure. No worries if it is. We can completely move on from here. But, he's a Stanford running back guy, right? He's not?
Yeah. Stanford. I'll find him.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. We'll move on from here. Let's shift it over to some of the dudes that I have right now. And real quick, I actually want to shout out to Sarah. Hey, fellas, I'm here to learn from the experts. I don't follow college closely. So then you're in the right spot. Because, again,
we screwed up just now, Sarah. Sorry.
Well, we don't know that. If in the 7th round somebody named Braylon Edwards gets drafted out of Stanford, then we get a goal line. But yes,
Braylon, B-R-E-A. Let me look.
Sure. Yeah, no, Truth is the expert here. So by all means, I do some homework. He does a serious legwork here. So, but let's go into some of the a little bit more of the blue chip dudes. What about Audric Estime from Notre Dame? My personal take on this dude is I do like how this guy hits the hole. He's a little bit more powerful as a running back. Right. He's extremely hard to take down. He stays on his feet very well. And he forces missed tackles too. Like he's going to get past that initial wall of contact. And on 3rd and 1, I actually feel pretty confident that he can get that extra yard that we would need. Issue. He's a little slow to hit the hole immediately, which, listen, if it's for you, you got to plow forward. I don't care. You got to stop looking for room on those types of plays, but that's one of the issues that this guy deals with. Speed. Listed that he will possibly run a 4.48. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if you've watched that game, but his game tape, but he's not that fast. I personally don't see it, right? I mean, they're listing at 4.48. I find that a little bit hard to believe. And then this dude pretty much has no breakaway speed. Like he's not getting past the secondary. So good player, like up in the first like 10 yards. I think he's very helpful. And I actually think if Saquon were on the team, this type of running back would complement him very well. But that's really the extent of it. I mean, there's a few things that he would have to work on. And who knows, maybe he can prove us wrong. Only other nice caveat here, he's from Nyack, New York. So I think like if the Giants want to go with like a hometown dude to some extent, which I always like. If you're in the later rounds and you're between two players and one guy's from South New York or, Connecticut or New Jersey, I kind of like it if they take the hometown kid, kind of like DeVito. So by all means, I mean, I like that aspect.
Well, this is another guy I like. Okay.
Oh, you do like him. You like him a little bit more than I do. Okay,
I do like him. I do like him. I do like him. I watched a few games of him and also highlights. I like the way he runs. Again, he's not perfect. That's why he's projected to go on late day 2 into day 3. He did have the best average in PFF and rushing grade 94.
Wow.
Among all running backs this year, which again we kind of like talk about the PFF thing. How accurate is that? But teams,
there's some value there. I don't care what anyone says. There's some value. It's not the be all end all.
Yeah. What I like is that the big thing on him is that he makes people miss, even though he's got that typical frame.
Right.
You just talked about my guy. All the guys I mentioned, 5'11", 227. That is a power-packed person. And it looks like that's the build of a lot of the running backs that we're going to see come out of this draft.
And by the way, he's a smart dude too. Like you can see that he's very good at finding holes, right? If his hole's clogged, he quickly looks over and shifts. Well, mentally he shifts over pretty fast. Speed wise, it's not as quick, but he does do a good job of finding those.
Yeah. I do like him. He runs hard. They had that game against Ohio State. He played really well.
Very good. Very good.
Should have won that game. Gosh, I felt so bad for them. So he performed well against a solid team, with a spotlight on him. So I do like this guy as one of my three guys that I like in this draft.
Yeah,
absolutely. And let me backtrack, and I apologize.
Oh boy.
The person that I should have wrote down was Braylon Allen, not
Braylon Allen.
I screwed up big time.
No worries. Braylon Allen. Okay, for sure. Well, some of these guys, there's some overlap names, by the way, last names that overlap. So by all means. I mean, I made that issue a couple weeks ago, but no, for sure. And again, it's he is more of like a notable dude that you're a fan of too, right? It's a little bit more of like a later. That guy is projected to go a little bit later.
Yeah, Allen. Yeah.
Not to say he's not relevant or his name's not relevant. It's just more of a sense of like, hey, this is one of the dudes that's going to go very late at, might be like the Bryce Ford Wheaton.
Yeah. But I definitely like this guy here out of Notre Dame. I think, like you said, I kind of like I kind of think he looked nice in a Giants uniform. He could battle, compete against Eric Gray for that spot, and
and then we have a short yardage guy too. That power, I mean, that's definitely something. And he's got to hit the hole, but that power is good.
Absolutely, I like.
All right, I'll go to probably who's my favorite guy. It's Blake Corm. Even though he goes to the disgraceful University of Michigan, there's some aspects of his game that I really like. And so, I mean, just starting from the top, him finding the hole from the line of scrimmage is very good. Him finding the hole, further down the field is good, right? Finding a lane. Like when you get past 5 yards, it's more about finding a lane than finding a hole. And he does a good job of finding that.
Great vision.
Great vision. He's a smart player. He's really hard to take down. He has great breakaway speed too. So unlike Aldrich Estime, I mean, this dude can burn the secondary. He does have dynamic there with the pass game and the run game, right? Which is something that you really like. I don't know if you saw the Michigan-Alabama game, but it was 4th and 2, and Michigan ran a play. They were so far away from the end zone. 4th and 2, they threw it to him, and he got a 50-yard gain, and it was unbelievable. And that really helped them to win the that matchup. But good decision maker overall. Some things he has to work on, and some things that's leading to him not being the top guy. Even though he finds the hole, he's got to hit it a little bit harder. And then injuries and age also compile for the dude as well. There's also a little bit of a concern of, listen, again, Michigan's offensive line this past year was one of the best ever assembled.
Yeah.
And how's that going to translate when he gets to an NFL offensive line? Or, I don't think there's any offensive line in the NFL that's going to give him the time of day that he had at Michigan.
No,
So it's going to be
he was a touchdown machine.
Yeah, especially if he ends up on the Giants. Like, I don't really know how well that's going to translate. But again, if he has some measurements at the combine that match, that are static, go for it. I think he's a great pick. If the Giants can somehow land him on day 3 or 4, I mean, that would be phenomenal. He's a great player.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here are guys who I think because of the depth on other positions, especially the wide receiver, also the offensive tackle. Those are, in my mind, those are the top 2 deepest positions in this draft, and that's going to push all the other positions back. And running back will definitely be one of those positions. So here's a guy who could slip and fall down into day 3. I have him right now, day 3, but he could go late day 3, not early day 3, being pushed back. And if that's the case, like you said, the Giants, why not? I mean, the guy reminds me of Joe Morris. The way he just statues. First of all, he's 5'8", 215. That is a power plug right there.
Yeah,
that build, and he's not. He doesn't have much fat on him either, guys. So
no, he's a very cut player.
Yeah, and like you said, he has receiving skills as well. He can catch the football out of the backfield. So. I like him. I like him too. He's my number 3 guy. Of my 3 guys that we have here, I like him. I think he'd be a great value pick in day 3 or late round 3 or day 3 of the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, now we can go on to another great player. Let's do Jonathan Brooks out of Texas because he's probably going to. I mean, it's a little tough to decipher who's going to go first, but here's a dude that has a very good shot. He only played 1 year as a starting role, which is a little bit more common in college football now. I mean, he was behind 2 great running backs last year at Texas, unless he transferred. I don't know what the story is there. But if you watch his game tape, terrific balance staying up, really tough to take down, hits the holes very well, and he finds the lanes past the line of scrimmage. Speed is good. It's not phenomenal, and that's really what's holding him back from being that running back that would possibly go in the later first round, like an elite running back would, right? That's what's holding him up. But he's a very talented guy. And honestly, if he played a little bit more time in his previous year or whatever, he might be a little bit more highly touted. But he's a very talented guy. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind about it. What are your thoughts on Brooks?
Well, yeah, I think you say, he has a little wiggle in his move, agility. Good body control, like you just said. He has good speed, not great speed, not elite speed, but good speed. Yes, he does. And he was like one of the most productive backs this year, almost 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns. Average size, not a big guy, 6 foot, a little over 200 pounds. A little more of a not a north-south kind of guy, kind of like a slasher kind of runner.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do believe, and you mentioned it, I do believe he'll be the first running back off the board.
Yeah, he's got the best shot of it, unless somebody really thinks Corm can kind of hold up with the NFL offensive line with his prediction.
And again, someone have a phenomenal combine and just leapfrogs them into the second round, right? Absolutely.
Especially this position, by the way. I feel like this is the position where, like, if you really ball out the combine, this is the one where they're going to be like, oh my God, he can play. If you're an offensive tackle and you did the most bench presses or whatever, that's great. But that doesn't necessarily cleanly translate to what the play is going to be like, right? But like running back metrics, like the shuffle drill, these things matter. This is critical. The only thing you can't really get a sense for is, the decision-making they do when they're out there on the field trying to figure out, where the holes are, where the lanes are, everything like that. But yeah, he is a terrific player. Moving on to Florida State's Trey Benson. Here's another guy that, again, gets bobbled up in the second running back or third running back to be taken off the board. Here's a speed that we really haven't quite talked about or seen from the other players. His speed is absolutely terrific. His breakaway speed, No one's getting him past the 10 yards. Ankle breaker, excellent with pitches and out routes. So he's a threat in the passing game. He's not afraid of contact either. And even though he's like, it's not a specialty to like plow forward and plow over dudes, he's not afraid to engage. The risk there is he's got to be careful with how he does it because he's putting himself in line for injury. So I really like he needs to clean that up. But again, I'd rather have a running back that is willing to push forward and go into the arms of the defensive end to try to get that yard because we do kind of need that. If it's 4th and 1, he's got to be able to do those plays. So he's really good, and he's good in the pass game too. Issues, as I already outlined, needs to be better upon contact with how he positions his body. That's workable. He's a god awful pass protector. He can't. I mean, he can't do that to save his life.
Yeah, he's a statue back there.
Yeah, he's a statue back there, and he's like, oh, listen, unless I'm getting the ball, I don't really know how to help. So he's the most Saquon-like, I think. He's not as shifty, but he's very good in his versatility. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, yeah. You know, he's got good speed. You know, like you said, the balance, agility. Got that same frame as Jonathan Brooks does. It kind of built similar.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think this guy, he's another guy who could go late second round. It's going to either be him or Brooks.
Right.
I kind of think Brooks might get the edge over him. Depends on which team is picking at the end of the draft of second round who can use a running back. But yeah, he's a good player. I mean, he played in a good school, a good competition. He was the main guy. I think on that offense, they had him. They had what's his name? What's that name? The two wide receivers, Coleman and
Deion Coleman, and then
the big boy Wilson, right? Jonathan Wilson, something like that. His name was. What was that? Who was it?
Oh, I'm trying to get it.
Yeah, but they. I mean, they had weapons. They had weapons.
Yeah, Johnny Wilson.
Yeah, they had weapons. So a good balanced team. Good player, a little under 1,000 yards rushing. You know, 14 touchdowns. So I agree with what you said about him.
He's good, and depending on the type of offense, I mean, you know, it's really just dependent on what type of offense the team runs for him to ball out, right? And of course, you can say that about everybody, but when you're a shifty running back, you know, you really got to cater to his abilities. And I will say, like Jason Garrett did the opposite of that with Saquon.
So a guy like this, a late second round pick, let's say he goes late second, a team like the Ravens.
Right.
Here's a team that can use a running back, and here's a guy who probably would do well in that kind of offensive system. What's
Absolutely.
that? Yeah. You know, nothing wrong with that, with going on that kind of quality team with Jackson and having the other kid Flowers from last year's pick. That would be a nice little blend for that team to have, along with Mark Andrews and the other kid, Isaiah, the other tight end they got. Can't remember his last name, the other one, the rookie. But yeah, I can see that. I can see him going to a team like that would probably fit his style of play the best.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so then the last guy for me, and then let me bring up one more just as a wild card because I know he's one of the top dudes, so we kind of have to talk about him. We'll just go through Will Shipley. You know, he was a really highly touted recruit when he came out of high school a few years ago. And he was going to Clemson, and it was like, man, this guy, you know, might be a legit player. And he never really quite turned into that as a running back, unfortunately. He had to work on certain things. What he does well is his elusiveness and his ability in the screen pass. Like, if the Giants need a screen pass specialist, here's the guy to do it. He doesn't have that bobbling. He doesn't have the tripping up issues or anything like that. But overall, I mean, his game's not explosive enough to really carry himself to the next level. I didn't really quite see it at Clemson. He didn't put the team on his back in any regards. So here's a dude that started off as a hot commodity there a few years ago, but just never really quite built himself up to be that. He's still talented. I'm sure he's still going to do good at the combine and everything like that, but I'm not a huge fan of the dude.
Okay, yeah. He didn't really he wasn't the number one guy for Clemson, right? They kind of shared the backfield with someone else, didn't he?
He shared it, yeah. He shared it.
Yeah, and you never know guys like this, you know. Doesn't have the stats like all the other guys. That doesn't mean he's not good. He's got a little bit of an issue size. says he's 5'11", 205. I don't know if he's that big. We'll find out more after the combine because that's when they really they weigh you and get your true height and weight. But he's a quality running back. He's a good player. Don't know how well he'll transfer or translate into the NFL and what kind of role he would have, but who knows? Could be a good special teams player and stick on a team.
Hey, real quick, Chris is in the audience. Chris, what's going on? Who's the best running back in pass protection? Actually, I think Texas's running back is pretty good. Brooks, he's pretty good. I'm trying to think through the other ones that are at least relatively good.
I know Davis does a good job when he stays in blocks.
Davis
he's rated. Yeah, Ray Davis. I don't think he's rated as the top blocker, but he's a pretty well-rounded guy.
Estimate's good. I mean, Blake Corm's okay. He doesn't get challenged a lot because the offensive line took care of business for him. Good question though, because again, Chris, I mean, we've been talking about it. Like, it's important. We need to do that can actually just give a little time, and unfortunately, the Giants haven't really had that in a while. Hey, so Truth, let me go over just one last dude. I want to hear your thoughts because we weren't slated to go over him, but he might be one of the top running backs to go. What are your thoughts on Bucky? What are your thoughts on Bucky Irving? I just want to make sure we cover off on him.
No, he's good. He actually had the best average. He had the best average in the college football after contact. He had almost 4 yards after contact, and that was the best. And he had over 63 misses on the field. So he's elusive. He's an elusive runner.
Okay.
He's a small guy, 5'10", 195. He's not big in football terms, but that doesn't mean anything because he had Gibbs over at Detroit, who was not very big, but had a heck of a great rookie year for them. So size doesn't matter. It's the heart of the player, and this kid is a good player. I liked him. I watched him in Oregon play, and of course, in Oregon system, he was a receiver as well. So shows a little his diversity that he could play both run and catch the ball. So I like him. I think he's a good player. I see him as a late third round pick, something like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let me ask you this. This is a fun question that I really want to hear your thoughts on. You've been watching the Giants for a long time. We are a running back team, a running back franchise historically. I mean, you look at the best receivers in Giants history, and while I value all those dudes that contributed, we don't have the plethora of elite wide receivers that we do at the running back position.
Right.
Who is your favorite Giants running back of all time?
Oh, my God. Okay. Oh, boy. I got to say it. I kind of like Brandon Jacobs. I like Brandon Jacobs because he was a beast. He was just a beast. He was a good player for the New York Giants. Gave him what did he play, like 8 years for them? He played a while. Look it up. I mean, I think he leads all running backs in Giants history in touchdowns. I liked him a lot, and I think second was Ronnie Hampton. I kind of liked Ronnie Hampton a lot.
Yeah, he carried the Giants' offense throughout the 90s,
Yeah. And injuries, unfortunately, shortened his career. It's a shame because he was a pretty good, well-rounded running back for the Giants. He could catch the ball in the backfield, too.
Yeah. Yeah, and he had a good stretch there, I mean, for when he played for the Giants. A lot of down years with just the team in general, but he was a phenomenal running back. So
who is your favorite running back?
It's a great question. You know what my favorite running back in Giants history is? It's Brandon Jacobs.
Yeah, okay. I mean, listen, what's not to like about the guy, Man, he didn't shy away from contact, did he?
No, he never did.
No.
In fact, he encouraged it. I mean, one of my favorite plays ever, Truth, is that NFC Championship game, that first play against the Packers, where he pretty much pointed at Charles Woodson. He's like, get ready for this. And he blew him over. I mean, that was insane to watch, right?
Yeah,
so
I remember
not
that.
shying away from contact. He could have probably tried to run out of the way. He did that on purpose. He could have probably gotten a few extra yards if he, ran to the right or something. He said, oh, no, bam. And there's very few running backs that ever gave me that that sense before. I mean, Derrick Henry's one of them, but as of late, I mean, there's very few. I am so fortunate that the Giants got him because it was a blessing. Remember, he replaced Tiki Barber. He came in the year after Tiki, and we thought our running game was shot, right? It was never going to come back and be what it was. And he was a different type of player than Tiki Barber. And I'm not going to argue, which one was better. But again, when we talk about, I don't care about the breakaway runs, the breakaway speed. What I always cared about was if it's short yardage or we need a few yards, who's the most reliable running back that the Giants have that can get the job done? Yeah. And it was always Jacobs. And he did that. He's not the best running back of all time in terms of was he Barry Sanders or Adrian Peterson? No. And he won't go to the Hall of Fame. But what he did for the Giants was exactly what I was talking about. He was a solid running game on an offense. I mean, really, he was unbelievable. And by the way, those first 2 years of him, 07 and 08, unreal. If he kept it up at that level, he would have been Hall of Famer. Unfortunately, he did taper off a little bit by 09.
Oh, yeah.
And Bradshaw became that, mixed in running back that offered a little bit more dynamic. He was a little shiftier and whatnot. And he matured pretty well. But I'm hands down going down with Brandon Jacobs. And my dad, favorite player of all time for the Giants.
Oh, yeah. You got to love him. I mean, look, Tiki Barber had a phenomenal career with the New York Giants. He really did, especially near the second half of his career.
Yeah.
Just amazing what he did with running the football. But,
it's funny that some of the Giants running backs had gotten better as time went on, right? Bradshaw got a little bit better throughout the years. He was a good running back. Tiki got better later on,
Yeah.
We sit here and talk about how running backs, they decline so much. And Saquon's a little bit of that example of he started off killer, great, everything like that, but tapered off with time, right? Tiki was the opposite. He started off, pretty good, but then finished great.
Yeah, so, and he had a fumbling issue when he in his first few years until he Coughlin taught him how to hold a football. Tuck it in high, right up in here.
Yeah.
But the best year they had the Giants when they ran the football was when they had the three-headed monster. Remember they had Jacobs and Bradshaw and Ward.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. That was one of the best running attacks I've ever seen in football history. And truly, I mean, Eli was very good that year too. But 2008 always gets talked about. I mean, that was probably the best Giants team. Many fans that are older than me, I never saw this year. I didn't see 1989, but a lot of people do say that was a year the Giants should have won the Super Bowl and didn't.
Oh, that's the year that, what's his name?
Flipper Anderson. No, I'm sorry. 89 was Flipper Anderson. 08 is what I was talking about initially. I think 08
I got you. Okay.
And that was the Plaxico incident. Yep.
Yeah.
Because they killed everybody that year. Steelers, Ravens, Cardinals, all the teams that were in the NFC and AFC championships, they did a great job against him. But Neil, you bring up a great point here. And I actually talked about this earlier. This is the most underrated play in Giants history, perhaps, the 4th and 1 with Jacobs. But the part that makes it less clutch is because everybody knew he was going to get it. That was the one difference. He was going to get it. It's not like if Saquon got the ball, we really don't know what's going to happen there. But Jacobs getting the ball, he's going to get a first down, man. He was so good. So good. But anyway, hey, we're coming up at the hour mark. Any final remarks here, Mike?
No, just kind of what I echo what I said when we started the show. Just because these guys are first round talent, because I don't see any, we all don't see any getting picked in the first round. I think there is quality here in this draft, and I personally I would not be upset if the Giants use one of their picks for a running backs on day 3. I would not be upset.
No, not at all.
They got 4 picks, I believe, in 4 picks, right? Yeah.
I want the Giants to walk away with the best running back that slips to the mid rounds.
Yeah,
I do, with or without Saquon.
That's correct. Absolutely.
4th pick at that point, I feel like they should just get the best available running back. So
it wouldn't bother me if they did. I think it would be fine.
Amen. Well, Truth, thank you again for another great episode, and all the Giants fans that tuned in on this Sunday evening. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, looking forward to the draft, and really we'll see what Saquon does here, and if the Giants re-sign him, because that really, really will possibly enable the Giants to have to draft somebody. So interesting times ahead.
And we'll be back next week at our usual time, right, Spartan? 8 o'clock?
Yes, back at 8 o'clock next week, guys. Thank you.
And take care, everyone.